Let me share with you some fairly significant polling, and it's not just new polling. The way they did this polling is to return to voters who had already responded to the poll in the Ipsos poll the first time, and they'd indicated preference away from Joe Biden. They went back to those same voters, and now you have a very different result. Kamala Harris leading Donald Trump 42% to 37%, according to this latest Ipsos poll. Harris has widened her lead. Now, the nationwide poll of over 2,000 adults found 4% of those surveyed backed independent candidate Robert Kennedy Jr. Now, 4% is lower than what used to be the number associated with Robert F. Kennedy Jr., which was Robert Kennedy Jr., I should say, which was 10% back in July. So he's lost 6 percentage points, and that's more than half of his support, at least in this polling. They had a margin of error around 3 percentage points. In a separate poll, again, Ipsos, finding Harris leading Trump 42 to 40 in the 7 states where the election was closest in 2020. Arizona, Georgia, Michigan, Nevada, North Carolina, Pennsylvania, Wisconsin. This is the latest Ipsos poll. 42 to 40. Harris leading Trump. They did not break out the results for individual states, so that is the whole bundle, if you will. The poll had mostly shown that Biden and Trump were tied when Biden was in the race. And Biden was performing worse than he had at the same point in the 2020 election. It was one of the reasons that those within the Democratic Party were pointing to the map and showing Joe Biden, you're in bad shape. But there has been a significant change in polling and in momentum. Tony, run a little bit from CBS.
The polls are looking like they're very strongly for us. And no matter where you look, in fact, a lot of states that people thought weren't in play are very strongly in play. Some were actually leading in.
That was Donald Trump in June, when it felt like every poll was trending in his direction. 2 months later, and Kamala Harris's ascent to the top of the Democratic ticket has this race looking like it is in a dead heat. The nonpartisan Cook Political Report is moving Arizona, Georgia, and Nevada from lean Republican to toss-up. CBS News Executive Director of Elections and Surveys, Anthony Salvanto, joins us now. Anthony, thanks so much for being with us.
Great to talk to you, Adriana.
So, Anthony, break it down. What is the current state of the race at this moment?
It's close, in one word. This is what illustrates it. Here's the map. We're going to spend a lot of time with this map over the next couple of months. The states that are in white are the battleground states, and they are all close. They are very close in all of our CBS News estimates. They're close in a lot of other polling as well.
Just for people listening, stop for a second, Tony. I just want to be aware of the fact that a lot of people take in the podcast just to audio. So it's, of course, Wisconsin, Michigan, and Pennsylvania that he's pointing to, but add to that North Carolina, Georgia, Arizona, and Nevada. So when he's talking about these states and battleground states, I want you to be aware of the fact that those are the states that are highlighted on the map. Go ahead, please.
And so that makes the race overall close. For context, Joe Biden, when he was at the top of the ticket, was in fact trailing Donald Trump, in some places substantially. But now there's been this big reset. Now the race is tight with Harris at the top of the ticket. And I just want to show you a little bit of the story of why. First of all, a lot of voters saying in general, over 2/3, saying that they think the country is ready to elect a black woman as president. But I want to show you this as well. Harris has consolidated the Democratic base. She's got 96% of Democrats with her. And that's on the back of an increase in enthusiasm among Democrats. More Democrats saying that they're likely to vote, that they're going to turn out. That's something that wasn't happening as much with Joe Biden, also even with independents. And I'll show you this too, because we talk a lot about these demographic groups. Harris doing better among black voters than Joe Biden was, a core part of the constituency. So movement there, as well as increased enthusiasm and saying that they're going to turn out. That's the underpinning of the change in the dynamic, Adriana.
Okay,
Those
so
are really
that's great.
weak spots
Thank you.
for Biden.
And I love that he mentioned enthusiasm, because you may say, well, like enthusiasm, dude, really? Is that in him? That is code for turnout. Okay, so you need, if you're the Democrats, you need big turnout. We discussed a million different ways how the electoral college map favors the GOP. When you're a Democrat, if you're hoping to win the presidency, you're going in with a strike on you anyway, because of the way the electoral map is laid out. But if you can get your people, the Democrats, to show up in big enough numbers, you should win the election, because there are more of you, Democrats, than there are Republicans. The problem is that the Democratic Party is an immense party with many different coalitions. It's the big tent party, right? And a lot of people who are under that tent don't show up on election day and don't vote. So you do need that enthusiasm, and you need a motivated base. It's only been some 19 days since Kamala emerged, says Karen. That's exactly right, which is why two things are true, I think. One is, this is a phenomenon, right? Her surge is a phenomenon. The other thing is that it's a wild reversal for Donald Trump. This is a guy who was, what's the old line? Measuring the drapes for, he was so ready to go. It seemed as though, and I told you before, the choice of J.D. Vance, in that you could see the kind of confidence he felt. I don't need to put somebody on the ticket who brings me a state. I don't need to put somebody on the ticket who balances me. I just need a fire-breathing dragon on the ticket so I can hang out at Mar-a-Lago and play golf. And that's kind of what he's been doing. All of a sudden, he's on the wrong side of these polls, and it's a very different attitude. And he holds a desperate, I'd suggest, press conference. He's desperate to get back in the news cycle, and he's desperate to communicate certain talking points. And in that desperation, he holds that news conference, or whatever the thing was yesterday. So be aware. Exactly, Mark. These are the polls to watch in our quasi-democracy. Yeah, that's very well put.
Hi, it's Mark, and I thought that was great. Hit the notification bell. You'll know whenever there's a new video being dropped, and please subscribe to our channel to help us save the universe.